Welcome to the So I'm Adopted podcast, where we talk everything adoption. This journey is not one we take alone. Together we grapple with raw emotions that surface from adoption stories. We want you to be comfortable enough to heal. So sit back and go with us on this journey as we dive deep into adoption.
Got mine.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of So
I'm Adopted.
I'm John,
And I'm Lisa.
and we want to welcome you to our newest episode on the podcast. Thank you again for investing time. Hit that like button, hit that share button. This is an opportunity for just individuals to talk about non-traditional relationships. This started with and I always give Lisa the credit for being the brainchild of this. She was consistent, and that's why we are here doing what we do. So again, thank you.
You're welcome.
For that. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is the first time that we are sitting down in 2025.
Yes. And we're looking for great things to take place in 2025. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. Any New Year's resolutions or anything? You do that?
No, I don't really do that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Any New Year's changes or promises or things that you're going to do differently?
Continue doing this.
Okay.
And
All right. Okay.
and one of the things I did say was try and be more intentional with the relationship with my biological siblings.
Awesome.
What about you?
So one is my health. I actually went to the doctor today. I have AFib, just FYI. And but my doctor today was like, you've lost 40 pounds.
Okay.
My blood pressure was 112/72. And he said, I don't need to see you for 2 years. And this is my cardio doctor.
Oh, good.
Ecologist, whatever it is, the heart doctor. That's what we call it.
That's cardiologist.
Yeah, cardiologist. So
Okay.
he said, everything's good. You don't have any signs or symptoms.
Okay.
So continue doing what you do, and I go back in 2 years.
Well, that's a great praise report right there.
Absolutely. So that is
All
me.
right. Good job.
Trying to make sure that my health is good.
Okay.
The other thing, and it was just confirmed, like 3 situations a day, I got to do something with regards to men's mental health. That's what I'm landing on. I got to figure out how to do it. So I'm speaking it so that I can be held accountable to it.
That's good.
So be looking for something with that, with regards to embedding the spiritual aspect, the mental health aspect, and then the behavioral aspect. So,
that's good, John.
yeah,
That's really good.
I think that is the cape that I'm going to be wearing.
Okay. But I'm excited about what we have some things that we are thinking about doing this year.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned as the year continues to progress. Even though it's January, it's almost about February. This month is almost over.
February is a great year. I mean, a great month.
Is that your birthday month?
Birthday month. It's our guest birthday month too, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
And Jayla's birthday month.
Oh, it's my mom's birthday month.
Also,
Good stuff.
So, who's your famous person? We always start our podcast with a famous adopted person, just to bring some light to individuals in the culture.
Yes.
So, who's your famous person?
So this time I took someone who was an adoptive parent.
Okay. All right.
And Josephine Baker.
Oh.
She adopted 12 children. And she called them her rainbow tribe because she adopted them from various different places. But Josephine Baker, the famous singer,
dipped the toe in the water, shut it down. Yeah.
Shut it down. And she was a spy. She was a spy
right.
at the time. So I'm trying to figure out when did she have time to adopt 12 kids.
So I remember the Josephine Baker story on HBO. Like, I had to sneak and watch it. They don't want to eat the fruit. You know what I'm saying?
That was a powerful
showing
song.
My age. That's a good one. I did not know that about her.
Yeah.
So my person, and I'm gonna read it because it floored me. Their name is Leslie Lynch King Jr. But you know who this person is? He was adopted when he was 16 days old, and his parents went their separate ways. A couple of years later, King's mother remarried, and they changed Leslie Lynch King Jr.'s name to Gerald Rudolph Ford Jr.
Really?
Yeah, that's right.
Gerald, I mean,
Gerald
President
President Ford.
President Ford.
Yes.
Really?
Had no clue.
Wow.
Had no clue. It's always a nugget. You never know who's in the culture.
You don't know.
Yes.
You don't know. Or a contributor of the, or a supporter of the culture.
That's
like
right.
Josephine Baker. That floored me.
Yes.
So.
And again, it's all about the non-traditional relationships.
Yeah.
And this platform to bring light to it and give us a safe space for people to talk about it and ask questions.
Yeah.
Because one thing that we don't do in our culture is we don't ask questions and we sweep things under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm just excited about this platform, and just always going to say thank you for pushing to make it a reality.
Well, thank you for accepting the challenge.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So today we have a guest, good friend of mine from Hampton University.
Okay.
Kalilah, I always call her K. Scott. She's married. I don't want to be disrespectful. She's always K. Scott in my heart, but her name is Kalilah Scott Sumners. And it's so interesting. We met after I stopped playing football at Hampton, and we were in class together, and it just was an organic relationship where it was that sister-brother vibe. And I remember we had class together. Then I ended up seeing her at the Ebony Showcase. That's a whole different conversation. We're vibing because we had a lot of things that were parallel. And normally, as a male, you don't find a young lady that has that type of mentality where her dad had made sure that she was on top of her game.
Okay.
She was very much locked in, and you couldn't run the Willy Bobo on her. So when we got to talking, it was just like, oh, that's how you think? That's how I think? And then it became like she was the secondary mother, because she'd be like, John, what you doing? You need to be doing X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And
she kept you straight.
She kept me
narrow.
She kept me straight and
All
narrow. Right. And she just always had that ability. Even after we graduated, she got married and I got married, we still were bonding. And I remember when she told me that, she had found her first family.
Okay.
In that journey. We both identified early on, and I'm sure maybe she can remember when that conversation first came up about adoption, but that was like the icing on the cake.
Okay.
Just us being just parallel spirits. Her family, I love them dearly. My family loved her dearly. And it was just a perfect mix,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for her to come on and share her story.
I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, her story is it's amazing.
All right. Well, let's get her on in here.
All right, let's jump. All right. So thank you first and foremost for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yes. I was saving the bag. I was like, I know I got one in the big joke I'm gonna play. I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait.
Come on, first of the year.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm trying to remember. Do you remember how the conversation came up about us both sharing that we were adopted?
I think, just like you said, when you all were doing your intro, we always had just like a brother-sister relationship. There was never anything crazy. It was always, John's my brother, I'm his sister, and we're gonna look out for each other. And I was there from Ohio, in Virginia, and his family was close in Richmond. And so there was a weekend or two where he was like, come home with me. You can sleep in my room. I'll sleep wherever you slept. I don't even know. I was in your room.
Yeah, I was sleeping in the other room.
I don't know. And it was like, you can wash your clothes. My mom's going to cook us Sunday dinner. I think I might have gone to church once or twice. And we just maybe had a conversation on your parents' back deck about just how we got to Hampton, what it looks like. And I know, like, I'm an open book. And I probably said, I'm adopted. And I feel like I remember you being like, I am too. But it was like a whisper.
Not a whisper.
and I didn't understand that, because within my family, it was an open
conversation.
It was just known. My parents always said, you're a chosen child. Mm-hmm. We didn't just accidentally fall into you. We had to work and we had to, go to these classes and do these things. So adoption for me was always something that I wore very proudly. But I remember that you being like, just don't say it too
You know what? I'm reflecting back, and I think there was a period in college where I didn't know how to address it.
Yeah.
And
whereas I grew up with it as an open conversation.
now I grew up with it being open, so everybody knew, but I didn't have, to be honest, you may have been the first person that I met that was adopted.
Or that was openly adopted.
person.
No, just that I could have a conversation with that was wrestling, well, that was adopted. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying
Oh,
to
and definitely wrestling, because at that point there was no, it was just, you know how it feels to be adopted. You're a person and you live in a family that loves you and cares for you and nurtures you and gives you every opportunity. But there's no one that quite looks like you.
come on.
There's no one that quite has the same toes or fingernails or just those small things that you just look for.
Yeah.
And so I think that deepened our bond in a way that was like, oh, okay, so we can really talk about feeling lost in the space where we should feel safe.
Right.
Because y'all can relate to each other.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you, I guess when they first told you? How old were you? And how old were you when they adopted you as well?
I was in foster care from birth to 9 months. My bio mom left me at the hospital. So I was in foster care in Kentucky for about 9 months. And at that time in the 70s, they were trying to place Black families or Black children with Black families. There was a white family that wanted to adopt me. My parents came in and said, nope, that's our girl. And so that white family did not have the opportunity to adopt me, although they had fostered me from probably a week until I was 9 months. But my mother, who was a social worker and had gone through the process and learned very early, you need to tell her story before she finds out. So I always knew there were bedtime stories of you were chosen. Yes, you know, I'm not your belly mom, but me and your dad saw you and we wanted you, and my dad wanted a boy. His name was going to be Khalil. Hence, they just added an AH. They didn't even get creative. I was like, really? Wow. Okay. So it was always a story that was very open within my family or like my nuclear family. Now my mom's my mom's mom, my grandmother, my aunts, and them, no one really spoke about Kalilah being adopted. She was just ours. So nobody in the family ever spoke about it, but my mom, my dad, and I, it was not a secret.
Gotcha.
So I heard you say your belly mom. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard that phrase before, but I love it.
Because she spoke to you in the age that you were, so you can relate to
as a little girl. It was, I'm not your belly mom, but you know, your belly mom really did you know, she always, in my mind, and John knows this, and I've told this story before, I always thought my biological mom was obviously Whitney Houston because I'm gorgeous in my brain, right? She's gotta be. It's Whitney. Like,
you had the
voice. Just told me.
You had the voice.
I would have introduced y'all to her. But I say that to say my parents did such a good job of allowing me to understand that my biological mom made the greatest sacrifice that she could ever make to make sure that they were parents.
Right.
She was never vilified. It was never, you know, she was this poor girl who didn't want you and couldn't take care of you. It was always, she's the greatest person in the world. Who else would do this? Who else would make this sacrifice? Right. And so I was a Whitney fan, so I just thought it was her.
Okay. Can you sing like Whitney?
Yes.
I wish. I would be somewhere.
I'm a huge. I'm from Jersey. Whitney's from Jersey. Don't
my husband's from Jersey. I'm a huge Whitney fan. If I could sing, I would be somewhere living life.
Other than being Hamptonians, we got something else in common.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan.
Yes, me too.
I used to tell people, just call me Nippy. But that's that thing that you do as an adopted child. You want to hang your hat somewhere. Right. And so you figure out in your mind, oh, you make up stories because there was no story. Although I found out that there was a story. There was that whole non-identifying medical information that you have access to. It was there. I think that my parents just felt like we want to build this life with her and make sure that she's safe before she accesses that information. And so
Now,
I
did
didn't get to
they
that
know
until I was
did they know the
33.
story before you found out?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where the protection part came in, I guess.
Yeah. And as much as a teenager, in my mind, I would think, when you get in trouble or something happens, you're not even my mama. You're not even my daddy. I never
Mhm.
said that out loud, but in my mind, like my mama would have let me go to the skating rink because
Mm.
she's cool, because you make that other person just this, person that would do and be amazing. But as I look back, I'm glad that I didn't have access to that information because I wasn't emotionally intelligent or self-aware at the time to deal with the repercussions of what may come with knowing that information.
Right. Right.
So let's jump into, you are young girl, you already know. Were there any times, because it was so normalized, because it was
Mhm.
so positively spoken about, were there any times that outside peers, friends, or family members created an opportunity where it was a dig or something negative with it?
Never.
Mm,
Never. It was I think my mother had such a fertility journey, because they didn't get me until they were 35 and 36. So at that time, that was a little older to be
Yeah.
having children.
Yes.
And my mother had been through IVF and rhythm method and all the things to try to have a baby. So I think by the time I came into the family, it was thank God.
Mm.
We have this baby. I look very much like my parents. John knows my mom. I look
Love
very much like her. People used to tease her that she told my daddy that I wasn't, that she went somewhere and got pregnant.
Oh.
I look very much like my mother, which is the craziest thing. I do remember that my mother would say that my father's mother would tell her, you couldn't even have a kid.
Mm,
Oh, wow.
So that was her wound. My grandmother on my dad's side never treated me any differently. But as I got older, my mother would say, my mother-in-law would always say, and you couldn't even make a baby.
oh,
Mm.
that's so hurtful.
So for
Mm.
her, that was a wound that I didn't experience. Thankfully, I never experienced that. You're not ours. You're not our blood. Never that.
Mm-hmm.
And if it did happen, my parents 100% shielded me from that.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So, at what age did you start to be curious as to who, your biological family was?
I think we're always curious, but I think it wasn't um, relevant to my life until I got married
Gotcha.
Mm.
and we started thinking about having children,
Okay.
and I had a miscarriage, and then I had my 21-year-old. And so when I was pregnant with her, it was kind of touch and go. And I was like, wow, I wonder if anybody in my biological family's experienced this thing. Because there was no,
No
I
history.
didn't have any
Data.
medical issues, none of that. So I had no medical history. So, you go in and you put in A on everything because you don't even know.
That's right.
Mhm.
And got through that pregnancy. Everything was fine. Then I had 4 miscarriages between my 21-year-old and my 15-year-old.
Oh, okay.
And when I got pregnant with him, I was like, okay, I'm tired of this NA stuff. I need
Mhm.
to figure out what's going on because, quite honestly, I want a little boy. So I was like, I need a boy. We got one of each. We got a boy, we got a girl. God don't make no other flavors. So let's figure out what's going on. And so when I was pregnant with my now 15-year-old is when I got really busy and I hired a private investigator.
Oh.
Do you remember that show, Troy the Locator?
Mm-hmm.
All adoptees love that show. Every adoptee I ever talked to was like, oh my God, yes, I cry.
Yeah.
One of the investigators on Troy the Locator
I
is
don't know.
a private investigator in her own right. And so I hired her.
Okay.
I hired her when I was pregnant with my son. I was about 6 months pregnant with him. And I hired a private investigator because I didn't have access to, all adoptions prior to 1980 were closed.
Right.
And so I didn't have any information, and it wasn't open. It wasn't like, I don't know, maybe I went the easy route. I didn't search and do all the things that I could have done. So I hired a private investigator is what I did.
Okay.
So now you're at a place where you are having well, let me back up. With you being in the adoption world, how do you think it impacted you as a wife? Did it have any impacts?
I think my husband was always aware that there was this unspoken potential medical problem, when you lose children, you lose children, you lose children. I'm like, I'm just a normal 26, 27, 28, 29, 33 when I finally had Mason, year old. And so what's going on? At the same time, in his own life, he had some challenges with his birth father.
Okay.
And I think, and not that he wasn't adopted out or anything like that, but I think me taking the initiative and going the steps and figuring out what is my biological lineage really encouraged him to reach back and create a relationship with his father, which he did.
That's awesome.
Which was huge. Yeah. So there's a kind of crazy canny story that I'll tell if I can.
Sure.
Absolutely.
The lady that I hired as the private investigator, her name was Linda, and she got all my information. Say this was January-ish of 2009. So she called me on in February, like February 22nd, 2009, because my birthday is the 26th. So I remember because, you just remember. And so she said, you're adopted through this, which I knew. This Lutheran Social Services, this is your birth mom's name, da 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 da. So I called Lutheran Social Services on the phone. And I said, hey, my name is Kalilah Scott Sumners. I was adopted in March of 78. And, I'm looking for my non-identifying medical information because I didn't have it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The lady on the phone says, are your parents Henry and Pat?
Come on.
Just like that.
Come on.
I said, what?
Just off of your name.
I'm at the office. And I was like, girl, are you the secretary? Like, why are you asking me this question? Right. How would you know? And she said, today is my last day.
Oh, Mom. Come on.
I am packing up my office. Our secretary is not here. But I remember you.
Oh.
And I said, how do you remember me? She said, you were the first African-American child I adopted out as a social worker after I got my master's.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, that would be significant for her.
Oh, I got chills.
Oh, wow.
She said, I remember you. Your mom and dad, your dad was a teacher. He was going on to study to be an administrator. I always knew my dad to be a principal, right? I'm like, yeah. Knew my whole family story, but couldn't share anything with me because it was closed. Her name was Linda. Oh. So Linda, the locator, Linda, the social worker.
Social worker.
Got my non-identifying medical information because she sent it to me straight away. But I can give you this.
Okay.
And then the social worker or the private detective found my biological mother. Her name was Linda. I said, what?
Wow.
Come on.
So it was just one of those God things. It really was like the right moment when I picked up the phone and said I should call. It was just like that. And so when I got that information from the social worker or the private detective who had found my biological mother. She said, this is her information. This is who she is. This is her phone number. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't call her.
Wow.
I mean, what do I say?
So they didn't like call her first because
Well, no, with a private investigator.
Because it was the investigator found her.
Yeah, so it's like,
that's
here's the
true.
information, you
Okay,
do with it what you
okay.
want.
Yeah.
Versus
Mhm.
a social worker
well,
who has to follow certain things.
Yes. protocol.
Mm-hmm. And she
Okay.
said, I wish I could help you. I just can't.
Oof.
And so I had my biological mother's phone number that was like the 22nd. I had it for about 7 days and just kept it by my bedside and really prayed about it.
Mm-hmm.
Went out for my birthday, came back home the 27th or 28th, and I called. She answered.
Ooh.
What did you
And
do?
I said, may I speak to Linda? And she said, yeah, this is her. Who's this? And I said, my name's Kalilah. I think that I'm your daughter, but maybe not, because you never know what
Right.
space somebody's in. And that was a bold call to make anyway.
But I
Very
can
much
see you
so.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know me. And so I said, and she's like, no, I didn't have a daughter. And I said, okay, well, if you did, because if I did, I would want to know that
Right.
child is safe. I said, I am safe. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I have a little boy on the way. He's due in June. And if this is not a good time for you, that's fine. But if I were in your shoes, I don't know if these are the shoes that you're in, but I would want to know that my daughter's safe. I had a great life. And she said, your birthday was the 26th.
Oh,
You just gave her too much for her not to say that she had a daughter. Wow.
Yeah. And I said, okay. I said, if it's not a good time in your life, if you are not in the headspace, if this is not what you want to do, I'm okay. I just want you to know I'm okay. And you're okay and I'm okay. And that's fine. She said, well, give me your phone number. And so I gave her my phone number and she said, I have 4 boys. I never told my husband. And I don't really know what to do with this, but I knew this day would come, and I don't know what role I should play with you.
Wow.
And I said, well, let's get to know each other.
Wow.
And that's how that went. How that went.
So let's fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your relationship with her today?
So a little step back. We talked for like 2 years, just via phone. She was a state over in Kentucky. I was in Ohio. And we just talked via phone. I got to know her. She got to know me. And she was like, wow, your parents sent you to Hampton. Wow, you took ballet. Wow, you modeled. Wow, I could have never done those things. And, talked to me a lot about my bio dad. And, this is who he is. And this is what he was. And this is why I did what I did. And I come from, or was born in a very small town. With like 7 Black families who kind of all intermarried and blah, 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 blah. And told me who he was. And I had become Facebook friends with one of her nieces, who is my bio cousin. And she's like, oh my God, you look just like Joe. And I was like, yeah, Linda told me that Joe is my dad. And she's like, oh, okay. So there's 3 siblings on his side. So I sent a friend request to my brother who had like 4,000 friends. And I thought, he'll never see me. He'll just accept it. And I'll just kind of watch and see if I can see who I look like, who's the auntie, who's the cousin. Oh, that's my grandma. I thought I'd do that. I did that on a Tuesday. Say I sent that Tuesday at 5:30. Tuesday at 7:30, he sends me a private message. Why do you look like me?
Oh. Ooh. Excuse me, sir.
And I was like, well, I think I might be your sister, but maybe I'm not. And he said, call me. Sent me his phone number. Called him on a Wednesday. He said, I'm going to tell our granny, paternal. He tells her. She gets on the phone. And she said, you coming to Kentucky because you coming home.
Oh,
wow.
And I'm like, now, mind you, I have a very solid relationship with my family, my parents.
I got
But
you.
my mom had always said, I will help you when you're ready to
Mhm.
find your biological family.
Mhm.
So that was a Wednesday. Saturday, my husband and I were on our way to Kentucky. My mom and dad took my children because we don't know where we're going to. I don't know them.
Mhm.
We pull up to my paternal grandmother's house because at this point, Linda had seen the chatter on Facebook,
Okay.
called me and told me, I don't appreciate it.
I knew
I
that
don't
was
appreciate it. And I was like, wow, I probably messed up because I didn't want to out her.
right.
But also, these people were like, come.
Right.
Went to the house in Kentucky, pulled up, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is a baby shower. I'm thinking, oh, my cousins are going to be here. Fine. Baby girl. Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh,
Aw.
this is my cousins. I come in, it's a baby shower for me.
Aw.
I was 34 years old.
Aw.
And it was a welcome home baby shower, flowers, just here's your cousin. This is this. I mean, and everybody looked like me.
I know that
And
feeling.
yeah, it was a wonderful feeling. And like I said, it's a small town. So Linda knew I was there and she hadn't spoken with me and I was giving her space. And on the way out, she called me and she said, I'll meet you at Applebee's. I said, okay. So we met on the way out of town. And she told my husband, because I needed to run to the restroom, that's not her people. I was raped by 5 men. I just told her that so she could have a story kind of like thing. So I said that to say,
Wait, what?
Yeah.
She backed it up because
I know
now it's like,
I know.
But yeah,
yeah,
share.
this child is here and she looks like those people. And I wasn't supposed to be messing with that man. So yeah, so I said that to say she and I do not have a relationship. And I pray that someday that is different before she and I both leave here because I came from you. I'm not mad at you. I'm sorry that you're upset with me, but they asked me to come to Kentucky. You didn't.
Now I got a question.
Mhm.
So to this day, as far as you know, she still hasn't told her husband or her 4 boys. Or they went.
Her husband passed
Okay.
like a year and a half into our phone conversations. So I don't know that she ever told him, but her sons know because it's one of those towns where everybody's kind of cousins,
Gotcha.
second, third cousins. So the boys know, and I'm actually, I speak to her sisters.
Okay.
My aunts are very engaged with me and they say, I don't know what's wrong with her. Like that's over and done with. You're almost 50 years old and she's still holding on to shame. And I tell them, you never know what shame and trauma I caused for her. She hid me her whole senior year, ran track, was in the band, went 3 counties over to have me and leave to go back home like nothing happened.
Okay.
That's trauma.
Yeah.
So I probably represent a time in her life where she would like to not think about.
Yeah. She has to sit in that and really, really wrestle with that healing for herself if she wants to heal from it and move forward. But until she does, is nothing you can do. Do you have a relationship with your brothers?
From her?
Yes.
1.
Okay.
1. The other 3 boys, no.
Okay.
Their loyalty lies with her, so they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. And I am just here because of her. And so I'm just grateful. I'm not mad, but I recognize that even at her age, I think she's 17 or 18 years older than me. It just may be something that she has a process and maybe never will.
Right.
I'm always open.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not your adversary. I'm your daughter.
Mm-hmm. And she knows where to find you.
That's right.
I'm always available.
So,
You know?
so let me tell you this. I'm listening, and I've heard the story. I know it, and I'm listening to the things that you said. And again, this to me reinforces why we're just such kindred spirits, of how you were very, hey, this is what it is. If you're not ready, it's okay. And the fact that at the end of the day, I was safe
Mm-hmm.
and I was good. And that takes a lot of maturity, because, and we've discussed how, you have every right to express and throw out your feelings, and just people wrestle with whatever, but to be able to say to the individual, I'm good. I'm here whenever you're ready. And at the end of the day, like you said, that's mom. At the end of the day, she gave birth, that, even we've talked about it, it's still that respect level of, at the end of the day, regardless of anything else, I'm going to say thank you, because you could have made some other choices.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. And I imagine what it would be like to be a 17-year-old girl and feel like you have nobody to talk to and nobody to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you hide a pregnancy in a house full of people? That tells me something about the parenting that she received.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I can't imagine that. My mom knew if I had a pimple on my face, she's like, what's wrong with you? So like my parents stayed in my face.
Right.
So I could not imagine carrying a child to term in a home with parents and brothers and sisters and no one acknowledging that something is going on with you.
So I know with John, did he's spoken to his aunts, and his aunts filled him in on some of the backstory. So did your aunts tell you, or when did they know, or was this all new to them, once you reached out to?
No, they said we knew something was going on with her and she disappeared for a couple of days in 1977. But when she came back, we just didn't ask.
Again, sweeping stuff under the rug. That's how
they just did not ask. She picked it right up, went back to school, because I think she graduated. She might have I was born that February. I think she graduated that June. But the relationship, my paternal grandfather was the pastor. Her grandmother, her mother was the church secretary. My paternal grandmother obviously was the first lady. So this is a family who was very close. So they were like god brother and god sister. The pastor and his secretary and the wife, they know each other. They go camping together.
Oh.
They do Christmases together, Thanksgivings together. So this was like, how your kids have friends that you just don't even think about. Oh yeah, they up there in the room this day playing a game, or they out riding their bikes. Well, they were doing a little something different.
That's right.
And so it I think therein came the shame too. Like he was like a play cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again. And so the families were so intertwined. So my biological mother's mother, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, has said, we won't have nothing to do with you.
Oh,
wow.
And I said, wow. Okay. It feels very much like maybe how you parented your daughter, but that's not my business. It's very sweep it under the rug and we're okay. And as long as we're okay, then it's okay. But my paternal grandmother, she and I were very close. I mean, I went to Kentucky all the time and just sat on her couch and chilled. So my kids have relationships with their cousins, and my sisters and brother come spend time with us. So, I understand that boys' loyalty very much lies with their mothers.
So let me ask this question, or let me say this. So with both of you being mothers, and you think about when you had your children, how it was celebrated, right? And you brought up the fact of the trauma that, first mom may have had, trying to hide it and conceal it. So I can't even imagine her being able to unpack all those emotions of trying to hide it, but then at 17 years old.
Yeah.
And then whatever shame may have
Running
been.
track? You were still running track? I can't imagine.
Wow.
And she told me once, you're so much better than me. What could I offer you?
Your time.
Mm.
That's
just
all
who you are.
It's right. Your time. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's challenging because like she holds the key to just so much. Just being there. All you got to do is just looking at, sitting across, looking at you.
That's it.
I remember me and my biological mom, we met, had lunch, and I just couldn't stop staring at her.
I remember that.
I remember, and I was like,
yeah, we had that conversation.
And I think that for them, you know, and again, them wrestling through whatever, they don't understand. For us, all we need, like you said, is that time. Give me that FaceTime. You know, that
no matter what,
matter.
If I can get people to understand, because people think, well, you're grown. Like, you should be past that. You know, that's in the past and move on. Because we get to this place where we think people should move on. There is still a space where you just want to spend some time and just be quiet. You ain't got to say words.
Yeah, you want to be that child again.
Making up for lost time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I will never forget. And I try to remember it with my 21-year-old who gets on my nerves sometimes. That Dr. Phil always says, like, your children want to see your eyes light up when they come in the room. That's kind of all we want. Like
validation.
Yeah. Everybody wants to feel like they belong to somebody, even though we had amazing, or some of us may have not. I had an amazing life and amazing story that I probably would not have happened if I was still living in rural Kentucky. I would be riding horses and, you know, whatever. That didn't happen for me, and I'm grateful. But there is still a space where you want to be accepted and like, it's okay. And until she gets past that trauma that she experienced, I think I'm going to always be a wound for her.
So let me ask this question. With you having the information, and we can go back to the conversation at the Applebee's, right? You and Sean leave, you get back to Ohio. What's the conversation with the folks?
My mother, as much as she was, you know, my whole life, the one who would say, I'll help you, I'll help you, I'll help you. For her, it was very threatening. How was it with her? Did like, I think she felt that there would be some like soul tie. And so for my mother, when she found out that the relationship was strained, it was okay.
She was like, yes.
Right, score. Yes. Like, I'm safe.
Yeah.
The kick is good.
Yes, I'm still number one.
Yeah. And my biological father has always expressed a general admiration for my parents because he never knew I was born. So when I went back for the baby shower at 33, he was spending time away with the incarcerated friends. And so around the corner from my grandmother's house.
Right.
It's a town. It's Mayberry. And so my grandmother says, you want to go see your daddy? Yeah, sure. Like, why isn't he here? So we go to around the corner to the.
You was about to say Mayberry too.
And I walk in and they call him out. And he's like, oh my God, you have my face.
Wow.
And I was like, yep. This is behind glass.
Right.
And he's like, I can't believe you're real. And I said, you never knew. He said, no, she never told me.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He did not know. So my father has been very open to meeting my biological father because my biological father came from the place of, I didn't even know. And y'all did a great job with this one. Now, it has never happened. I don't know how Henry would act. Henry is my dad. So I really don't know how he would act. And my bio dad is never really free to move about the cabin. He's always got some probation issues, so he's never really been able to travel. So I don't know. But my parents were very supportive.
That's great.
So let me ask this question. How do you think, if any, you being adopted impacted you as a parent?
I will say, as a parent, it made me very open with alternative family styles. Because my children always knew that I was adopted. Mason was born into it, right? So I had already met the bio family by the time he came. I was 6 months in at that point. And Anaya knew. And, then Sean had a kind of strained relationship with his father. So she had never really met him. So my kids would always say, we got a lot of grandparents. Mom, you got 2 dads. You got 2 moms. Dad, you got, And so I think it really made me open and my children respectful of alternative families.
All right.
Because every family doesn't always look like even what it looks like. Because if you saw me and my mom and my dad, you wouldn't think that I was adopted.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, and here's this one, and here's that one, and here's some brothers, and here's some sisters. And so my kids are just, I think, open to the fact that families can look different.
Different, right?
That's awesome.
That's good. That's good. And it's weird that between the 3 of us, even though we're all adopted, and like we've mentioned many, many times before, everyone's story is so different.
So different.
It's so different because how your parents were supportive.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would be they weren't supportive because they never told me.
Oh, so, yeah. Oh, I saw your story.
Yeah. So
yeah. Like so you didn't even know.
I didn't know.
You found out from a family member, right?
Her husband.
Yeah, my husband.
I was going to say that, but then I was like, no, that don't even sound right. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then John always knew, but
right.
It wasn't spoken of.
Well, she shut it down.
She shut it down, so she wasn't supportive.
She was like, the file is closed and you can't open it.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. Let me go back to my room then.
Yeah.
So, stories are.
And I remember when you were telling me about John, I found him. I'm about to go do this. It was, I was so happy for you. But there was a little green-eyed monster of jealousy, like.
Yeah, you always have that desire.
It was almost like you made it into the promised land and I don't get to go. And
but
then
you was always gonna go.
But here's the thing: when you don't know and you're hoping, you celebrate others and you're like, I'll be glad when my time comes. And then you were like, well, John, be careful because you don't know what Pandora's box is going to open and you got to be sober. And I remember you telling me when you said, when I pulled up,
what I say, Lord.
You were like, when I pulled up, they had all these balloons and all these different things. And I'm like, well, shit, who the hell they doing this for? and it was for you. And you were just like blown away.
I couldn't imagine thinking of having a baby shower for me.
But that is what that little kid wants.
Yeah.
That little kid
wants. It was so gorgeous.
But it was blown away to you because you're like, they don't even know me.
Right.
And they took time to throw this baby shower for a 30-something-year-old.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah. And in my family, there's a little history of small ankles. So my grandma pulled me in the bathroom and she was like, come here, baby.
Small ankles.
Wait a minute.
It's a problem. It's a problem. And so I go in the bathroom and she's like, pull your pants up. Now, this woman does look like me, but I'm like, I don't really know what's going on.
Exactly.
She pulls my pants up. She comes out the bathroom. She ours. Yep, you got them ankles.
Hey, that's a DNA test right there.
Chicken legs.
Chicken legs. That's funny. Oh, that's funny.
And You would think like I would hate them. No, I love them.
Mm.
That's amazing.
Does it make you feel like after all this time, like you've always known them? It's just that you just been away? Because that's how
Yeah.
I felt
Oh yeah.
when I first found my family. It was just like, oh yeah, Lisa lives in Virginia and she's just coming up for, mom's birthday.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. Like we've always known each other.
It feels like that. I think that there's a connection that only DNA can create.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do. I hate that, and I say this like with two sides of my brain. I hate that I miss the stories that my cousins have
Oh my, yes.
because they have the Summers, they have the girl. You ain't know Aunt Dimples was crazy. I'm like, no, okay, no, okay. You didn't know such and such was married to such and such. I wasn't here, so I missed the history.
Yes.
I missed that. But then I'm like, if I hadn't that history, then I wouldn't have had the history with my family.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And that's how I
Um,
look at it also, because when you're sitting in it and they're sitting there and your cousins and everybody's talking about what they did as a child, and you're like, oh wow, I would have been doing that. Oh
yeah.
wow, I would have been doing that. I should have been in that picture. I would have been in that picture.
Yes.
All those things are the things that make me feel sad.
Me too.
But on the other hand, I wouldn't have changed my life because the life that they live, Lisa wasn't built for that. That's all I got.
I was not built for rural Kentucky, I promise you.
Say.
Mm-mm. No, and I look just like my grandmother. Like there were pictures of her when she was like 33, 34, like my age. And it could have been me. And she passed gosh, maybe 2017. And so my biological father calls me a lot and he's like, Baba Jean, that's what he calls me. Now that's her name. Now you know I ain't Baba Jean now. But yeah, I wasn't built for rural Kentucky either. I'm not a horse girl. I'm not a bluegrass state kind of girl. And I don't want to listen to that country music.
Oh my goodness.
That is so wow. So you was born in Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
and then so your adoptive parents went to Kentucky to get you, or how did you end up in Ohio?
So the foster family that had me in Kentucky, they were the husband was an OBGYN, the wife was a stay-at-home mom, and they had already adopted children. They had like 4 adopted children and like 2 biological. And they had this big farm and he had all this money. So I guess they were connected with Lutheran Social Services through the foster care system.
Okay.
When my mom and dad picked my picture out of the, I guess I imagine it to be like cards where you're just looking at kids. I don't know. But mom said they saw my picture and they met on the state line.
Okay.
And picked me up. And my dad said, my mom and dad had told me several times. And I remember they were the Smiths. Miss Smith came to my first and second birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
That they did as a family, or the 2 of them. But she had gotten so attached to me, she couldn't drop me off. And her husband said that she was really depressed when they found out they weren't going to have the opportunity to adopt me. But
were you the only child of color in the house?
No.
Oh wow. Okay.
Which is like
serendipitous,
70s. Right? Like how did that happen?
Did you ever look up the Smiths?
Yeah,
I have tried, and then I just like, not that they're not part of my backstory, right? Because they are, but I don't even know if I would. What would I say?
Right.
Well, I mean, you probably wouldn't say, but you could say, "Hey, I'm."
Thank you.
Kizzy is what they named me.
Kizzy.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'll say, "Hey, I'm Kizzy," and then they will go, "Oh," because you're not going to remember them because you was an infant, you was born, but they would, and
they would. They probably would. And at this point, I don't know. I guess I've thought about it and maybe like done a light Google search and never really went too deep. But yeah, they named me Kizzy because it was roots and it was the 70s. And She was a black girl, so
It was the
Kizzy's
legs.
cool.
It was the legs. That's what it was.
Kizzy, wow. I would
Okay,
get so many levels with that. That is so wrong on so many levels.
It's
Yeah.
wrong for us now because we
Yes,
have the
to
language
now,
and the
yeah.
and
understanding.
we know.
Yes.
But
For them, they probably felt like we're
It was
giving her a strong name.
Exactly.
Mm.
Here's this strong character that went through, and I'm gonna build it up.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's like calling a kid Toby.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I
Mm.
so like I'm sitting here, and I'm just this whole interview. I'm thankful to have this opportunity for you to share your story on this
Yes.
platform, and it reminded me of the similarities in our thinking and just our spirits, and just
yeah.
how we approached certain things with a level of maturity and sobriety.
And respect. Like, this was a hard thing for somebody to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I can't imagine giving my children away. And I mean, I'm not in that situation, thank God.
right.
But it really is a level of sacrifice that I don't know that I embody, to be honest.
And
For whatever the situation was.
The other thing is, we have so much more information. We have so much more support. We have so many other things now.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, they didn't have what we have.
That's true.
So they did the best with what they had.
Yeah. And what I've found out is her home was pretty chaotic. There was a fire. There was, adult sisters and brothers who were in and out, not inappropriate. I mean, my aunts are very successful, educationally, but I think she just got lost in the sauce.
Was she the baby?
Yeah.
No.
How many?
She's like mid. That's the thing. She was in the middle.
How many children together?
5.
Okay.
So she was like in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, she's in the middle.
And they were kind of spaced apart because
the kids. No, they were like stair steps.
So I'm confused.
Me too.
How is it that you have other sisters?
No,
right?
I do, yes. But the sisters, sister. She does. Yeah.
And they didn't.
Like, was she not close with her siblings?
Yeah, I'm saying they all living in the same house.
They lived in the same house.
They never recognized anything different about your sister?
They did not pay attention to each other. Now, my aunts will say now, we knew something was going on with her, but we just didn't say nothing.
Wow.
Do you think, and again, we don't know, do you think she has resentment towards the family for just them not?
She has a very strained relationship with her siblings.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very strained. Almost like, you guys didn't see me. You didn't know I was hurting. And now y'all think.
Now you want to celebrate it.
Now you want it. Right.
And again, from a mental health standpoint, that's why, again, I'm unpacking it from the other side, because, we just, like you said, we don't have the capacity to know that hurt because we haven't had to exercise that muscle.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have to give her grace.
And I do.
Yeah. And it sounds like you do. A lot of grace. Yeah.
I do. I just say, and I'll ask her sisters, because I talk to them all the time. How's Linda? She's all right. You could give her a call. And I'm like, well, you can stop that because I'm not.
Exactly.
But,
You've done your part. You left the door open for her whenever, if she's ever ready, she knows where to find you. And that's
exactly. Yeah. I feel like I went the extra mile, or not even extra mile. It was for me, but, hire the private investigator, went through the whole process. Have dealt with some pretty abusive language from her at times. And so I'm like, I'm still trying to give you grace, because I know that I'm a tender spot for you. I'm gonna let you say what you need to say, but I want you to not meet me.
Right.
That 1851, Kalilah.
I try to be kind and try to be courteous. And when I know that I don't have space for that, I don't reach out.
Right. And you just don't know what that true experience, because she's not sharing what really, really happened.
Mm-hmm. And what it comes up as is anger. So every time I'm coming home, my kids or whatever, it's a small town, people know each other. And, I went to my niece's graduation and her son was actually there. And he was just like looking at me like, really? Are you here? And I'm like, I'm not even here for you, sweetie. I'm here for her.
Right. Keep it moving.
So and that's one of the boys who is his mama's child, and I understand. But when those things happen, there's always a little scuttlebutt, like, ooh, she here.
I just don't understand. Well, I mean, I guess I do understand, but I just don't understand why they are, your other brothers are angry at you.
Well,
I can and I can't.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't ask to be here.
Correct, but you got to understand they're protecting their space.
I get that, but at this point, it's been some time. I don't want nothing from you.
Yeah,
100%. I'm not asking for anything. I don't want. And really, I don't. If you don't want to share your time, I don't want to pull it out of you. Exactly. But just know that I am going to be in Kentucky. I am going to visit my father. I am going to visit my siblings. I'm going to come to graduations and birthday parties. And it's okay if you don't want to see me. Just close your eyes.
You don't have to fool with me. You fool with people who want to fool with you, and that's it.
That's it.
Too many times we fight to put people in our space that don't deserve to be there.
And they don't fit. And and it's okay. They may not fit this week. They may not fit next year. They may fit in 10 years.
Come on.
You may be sick. You may need a kidney. You may need one of these little skinny legs. Whatever. I'm going to be here.
And the thing is, what I love about you is it makes you no difference. Whether if they want to be in your life, great. If not, you're going to keep it moving.
Because my foundation's so firm.
It's solid.
It is. And
my parents made sure that before I was able to access that information, I had the emotional intelligence to handle whichever way the wind blew.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful that you have matured and put away some of your older ways of thugging out in this season so that you could take care of it and handle it in a good way. Because I can see you, like you said, at that early age, popping off and just saying, forget all y'all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, the back pocket's always the back pocket, but
yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're almost 50 now, so let's move on. No, I really do. There were, honestly, and some of maybe who I was then was because of this experience. And just I'm going to protect me at all cost because I don't trust you.
Right.
And you not really knowing who you were.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of it, for all we know, she could have been one of those type of people too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could see a lot in you that, she's just not ready to face yet. So there's a lot of, I know for me, there was a lot of similarities to my mannerisms and how I walked and how I talked to this day. Even though my mother had passed, my niece would go, "Oh my goodness, you sound just like Granny. You sound just like her." So
wow.
And I didn't. You don't
know her.
Around me, I didn't know her.
Did you get to meet her?
I was blessed enough to meet her.
Okay, good.
Before she passed, yes. And I was there when she took her last breath.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the short period of time, the 8 years that I am truly, truly grateful for. I didn't look at it from that aspect before because at first I was like, I can't keep a parent. My adoptive parents died in 97. 9 months from each other. And then I found my biological mother. She allegedly says my biological father was deceased, allegedly. Okay. Until I see paperwork, I can only say allegedly.
Okay.
And then she passes. I'm like, can I get a break? Can I catch a break? So that's how I was kind of angry with
Mhm.
God, because you allowed me to find her and then you take her away from me.
And still got to pour out of that parent space into your own children.
Right. But I flipped it and says, no, God allowed me to meet her. So I had that time with her, because he could have just as easily me not ever meet her.
Yeah, and never known.
And never known her, but so I cherish the 8 years that I did have with her and the opportunity. So I don't look at it as, why did she
A
leave?
deficit.
Why did
Yeah.
she leave so early?
Yeah.
So I want to, again, this has just been so powerful. One of the talking points for this platform is the non-traditional relationships. And I love the fact that you said your children always had a respect for, family dynamics that didn't look like the traditional model.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to individuals, whether they are on our side of the adoption equation or from the parental side, or a family member that may be a spouse or whatever it may be? What type of nugget or just encouragement would you give based on your experiences?
I would say trust that person, that adoptee, enough to go down the road with them. Don't get ahead. Don't slow them down. Just meet them where they are. Because at the time that we are discovering who we came from, we just need support. We just need support. Sometimes there's a space for quietness, because we're figuring out what this means, because it really changes your perspective of life. It sounds like the three of us had a great foundation with our families, but it really changes once you learn my birth story, once you learn my conception story, once you learn even what happened to your bio parents afterwards. It's like, wow, I was there, but I wasn't. So you have to figure out where you were in that story to kind of get your bearings. So support is what I would say. I hope I answered that.
No, you did. And as you were talking, what came to my mind was there's an unbalanced equation. And we're taught from a mathematical standpoint, when you have an unbalanced equation, you have to do something to try and balance it out. And that's what we're trying to do. We're handed this playing deck of cards and we play the hand that we're dealt, but then I'm going to give you this extra 2 cards.
Yeah.
And now you are forced with, how do I continue to play the game of life without playing out of order, without being penalized?
And I think inherent in, I know for me, I told my parents this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We were just hanging out and I was telling them how much I love them, because I do all the time, because they're 81 and 80. And, yeah, my parents are that old, John. You got to call daddy.
Yeah, you
do. So I see I see them aging.
Yeah.
And I told them how much I appreciated them. And my dad's like, oh, no, we appreciate you too. And I said, no, let me tell you what I appreciate. I appreciate that you wanted a child. I appreciate that you chose me. And I appreciate that you raised me with no conditions. Like, just, I was any other child.
Right.
And I don't think that I had ever made that distinction, because I never wanted them to feel like I felt adopted, right? But I wanted to acknowledge the work they put in to get me.
Right.
And my dad was like,
crying. Yeah, I'm sure.
Give them their flowers while they're still
you
here.
got to, because whether however we came into our families, they had to do some work on the front end to get us. It wasn't just like somebody, the stork dropped us off.
Right.
Well, my
They had
story was black market. That's what I still stick to that.
She black market, you Whitney Houston.
Listen, Whitney was like, I had a show in Columbus, go get that baby. But I know that my parents had to do a lot of work. They had all the social service stuff. They had to check their background. They had to be financially stable and all those things that don't happen when you just spontaneously are pregnant.
Right.
So I wanted them, and I don't know that I'll ever do that again. But I needed them to understand that I know that you had to put in work to get this food that you had to raise, and I appreciate y'all. But I'm better, I'm better.
That's awesome.
But, going through those high school times and college and just figuring out who you are, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to.
Wow. This has been great.
Kalilah, you have
Thank you.
Yes.
This was awesome.
Yes.
I am thankful that you were willing to do it.
Of course.
Thank you for the transparency.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And the next week, I need to let's make it a reality. Do a FaceTime so I can see your folks.
Oh yeah. Okay. 100%.
We've been talking about it for, I know, a good 10
Oh my
years.
gosh, my dad would lose his mind. Yeah.
Don't even tell him. You just
I'm not
over there. Hey, let's get it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
No, this was therapeutic on so many different levels.
Yes.
Just very therapeutic. So the way that we close, I'll say my name, Lisa will say her name, and then I'll say your name, and then we say, and we are adopted. Thank you for the nugget. I think that is huge to support. The episode that we did previously, we had our spouses on.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Right. We talked about how us being adopted impacts our outlook on certain things.
Mm-hmm. And maybe in ways I don't even know. Sean might be able to give some more insight. I have to ask him.
Watch our
previous
episode. And I'm thankful that my wife was patient with me and she saw some things. And, you go back when you talk about when you were pregnant, how that was the springboard.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, being the father of Jayla, having to put those NAs down, my wife saw my face and the hurt that I had and the embarrassment. And it wasn't because of anything I did. This is the hand that I've been dealt. So I think that, your spouse plays a very significant role because they can either continue to support and push, or they can make it so that now you have a different level of shame.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Sir, that's the Lakeshore Connection.
Oh my.
Oh my God.
Well, I wish I get the opportunity to meet you in person, probably homecoming or something.
She ain't coming. She ain't been here in 30 years.
No, not since 2001.
Well,
but I keep saying I'm coming. And it's like, but this year we can do it. All my babies are big.
Okay.
Both my babies are big.
Well, here's the thing. Just let me know.
Okay.
And well, I ain't here no more. I'm tripping.
I know. That's why I'm like, you got to fly in from Florida.
I'm usually here for homecoming.
Yeah.
I might have 2 in Hampton, but we'll see.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I'm John.
And I'm Lisa.
Oh, and I'm Kalilah.
And we are
adopted.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Family, and we'll talk soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the So I'm Adopted podcast. We hope that this was informative and educational. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at So I'm Adopted. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, So I'm Adopted. And again, thank you for listening. And until next time, make the choice to begin your healing journey.